respect these animals, you know, and
yeah,
what they do for, or what they let us do, you know.
Incredible. Now we're both going to cry.
Yeah,
it is true.
And it's our job to do right to them, you know, and the best we can. I mean, nobody's perfect. I'm not preaching here, you know.
Welcome to Dressage Life with JJ Tate. Do you love dressage? Are you looking to inspire your ride? Do you long to learn secrets of truly great riders? Yes? Then you're in the right place. Join classically trained, internationally competitive dressage rider JJ Tate as she brings inspired conversations, in-depth discussions, and a healthy dose of humor to the world of dressage. Join JJ and her new generation of classical riders in this adventure called Dressage Life. In this episode, JJ sits down with Elite Dressage Rider Sabine Schut-Kery to learn about her 12-year partnership with Hanoverian stallion Sensayo, her start as a young rider in Germany, and her thoughts on competing. They also touch on the importance of relationships in dressage, honesty, chemistry, how Sabine recharges in her personal life, and how life in America has helped her in becoming a better person. And now, here's JJ.
Hey guys, I want to welcome you all to my conversation with Sabine Schut-Kery, who I know many of you are probably very familiar with how great her and her beautiful stallion Sanceo have been doing on the Florida circuit this year and are currently listed for the team. So that is totally exciting. And I just wanted to sit down, and I would like for you guys, and for me too, because I'm always searching for more information and like the backstories on everyone. I find it so inspirational. So I wanted a chance for all of you guys to get to know Sabine as well. So yeah, first tell us a little bit about how your season has been and how you guys feel. And I know Alice, the owner, must be completely just excited. And has she been able to come? And yeah, just give us a little feel of what you're going through this season.
Yeah, hi everybody, and thank you for having me, JJ.
Thank you for coming.
So yeah, it's been amazing. It's been really cool to see, you know, where we're at right now. And just to answer, so Alice and Dr. Mike Heitman, they tried to come for the 5-star, but it was that cold front in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and so they had a bunch of hiccups. I think some water pipes broke and stuff like that. They tried really hard. It was a back and forth, but they ended up not being able to come. But it's been really great because they can watch it on the live stream, and they have been like really sitting there and following it. And then we talked right after always, and they're so excited because I think it's also, you know, it's our baby, Sanceo. And so, you know, it's very exciting when he's at that point in his career and life and blooming. So yeah, everybody is just like so excited.
So with those words of like, he's the baby, like I just love your story with him. And I find so much inspiration in that you guys have had him for such a long time. And so tell us a little bit about that journey. And I think you maybe got him when he was 4, but like, how did that even happen? Like, were you guys looking for something? Did they have him before you? Or just, yeah, tell us about that story.
Yeah, so I know Alice and Mike from my time in Texas when I was up in Dallas working for Proud Meadows, the Frisians. Mm-hmm. And Alice is down in Hempstead by Houston. And I remember doing the exhibitions with the Frisians, and Alice always came up to me after and told me how beautiful it was. And over the years, she always did that. Mm-hmm. And always made a nice comment, and she's a very gracious lady and always came up and took the time to give me a nice compliment. So the minute I moved, it was funny, she called and she's like, she was under the impression I was exclusively working for Proud Meadows. So she called and asked me if I would train her Holsteiner stallion Classique at the time. And I said, yeah, let me look into it. So long story short, I ended up having Cacique. He was already, I believe, 7. And I was able, he was a little bit of a troublemaker, but super nice horse. But he was a stallion. He knew he had a lot of personality, did a lot of things his way. So he challenged a few riders, and I was able to click with him and get him. I would say our biggest highlight was I was able to qualify him for Gladstone for Festival of Champions as a small tour horse. Unfortunately, he sustained an injury, and it's the career. I mean, he couldn't perform anymore at that level. So then Alice said, well, she literally said to me, what you have done with that horse is amazing. I want to see, what can you do with one you trained? And she said, let's find one. And I remember I was riding with Sue Blinks at the time. And so naturally, you're kind of first looking for a 5 or 6 year old. And but it's hard to find. And Sue said, get a young one and do it yourself. Yeah. And I was actually, when I won the 5-star, I was thanking Sue still. I'm like, you know, you were the one that so guided cool. me that way. So I went to Germany and I couldn't find anything. And he was the last horse I saw on my trip. And I mean, I really fell in love. What blew me away, so he was just under 3. It was at the end of the year. Okay. So he was a 2.5-year-old. Yeah. And they started with the lunging. Right. And just under for the stallion presentation. Did he do the stallion licensing? No, we bought him before. Okay. So. Yeah. But I saw him on the lunge line, and he was only 3 times under saddle, so I was too chicken to get on. I was going to say, oh. But on the lunge line, he just had that steady, like in that small circle, he would just go the same steps, had 3 beautiful gaits. And then I said, yeah, but I want to feel it, right? I mean, you have to. Yeah. So I went back, and 2 weeks later, Alice's daughter, Janae, and Dr. Heitman, we went back, and he was 2 weeks under saddle. I got on, and I had the same feeling. It was just that click, and he was so rhythmic, and there was one step like another, and that was it. Yeah, he was just under 3. I think we left him a couple months there to get more confirmed under saddle, so he doesn't get started and then being taken out of it. Yeah. Let him settle a little bit with that rider, and you know, just getting under saddle.
And so then he came the spring of his 3-year-old year.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't stay long, just a couple months. Yeah. And that's so, and I mean, really, JJ, looking back, and that's what I always say when even now I'm looking for horses. Of course, you know, we all, or maybe a lot of people think Grand Prix and they think Olympics and all of that. But always what I say, what is the most beautiful thing with him that for me is that every year he has given us something. And it doesn't have to be always only that. I mean, he was, this horse really, I mean, I don't need to list it, but really every year, except when he was 7 years old, because back then we didn't have the developing things. Yeah. But other than that, every year we had a championship, and sometimes we didn't go. Like as a 5-year-old, we were invited to Pferden. We decided not to go, but that was exciting. You know,
he won the 4-year-old championships in Chicago.
No, he did not.
Okay.
No.
Did he go?
No,
I was thinking that he had gone to the 4-year-old championships.
No, we took him as a 5-year-old to Chicago, and then 6-year-old we did Pferden.
Yes.
7-year-old was nothing. 8-year-old I did the developing Chicago, which he did really well. Yeah, I think he got a 78 or 79. Yeah, and then we started doing CDIs, and then I think that was the Pan Am year. Can't remember, but close to it.
But it's just kind of been like an exciting time after exciting time.
Yeah, and I think every, stage in developing them is beautiful. It's not of course, this is like the pinnacle and it's super exciting. But, you know, back then that was super exciting.
Right. It's so true. And a lot of times I feel like, first off, like huge respect for you too, to be able to ride a young horse, bring them up through the levels, because I also always say it's as hard to ride a 4-year-old in the 4-year-old test as it is to like ride a good Grand Prix. It's like, because the balance is still all like relative, you know, and it's like,
for sure,
the young horses they don't know any different. So they're like, you got to help them. And then the Grand Prix horse knows different, and it's like this level of balance, but it's all hard.
Yes. And when you say that, I do remember one time overhearing colleagues at a show, and they were asking each other, so what are you riding? And the girl said, well, just training level. Yeah. And I thought, you know, I think, well, like you say, if I can ride a training level for a high 70 or an 80, that is like, to me, more exciting than a mediocre Grand Prix. Because why is that? Because the feeling of having such an animal respond to these little aids and the balance, what comes with that balance, that lightness, and that feeling
connection.
Of, yes.
Like that totally gives me the chills of like, it doesn't matter that it's just just quote unquote training level test 3. It's like, when that's magic, there's not a better feeling, you know. And it's interesting that you say balance, because Allie Brock also said the same thing, and I would say the same thing in my program, like, oh, what's the most important thing for in the training, you know, and like balance. And that's like interesting that you said that too, because that's also relative for each level and each horse. And like, when you find the right balance for any level, like that's where the self-carriage and the magic, you know, really, really comes.
Self-carriage. And then look at us. I mean, today I was even saying, see, now you look like you're sitting. So the sitting becomes easy too, right?
Yes.
This part, and gives you also a picture of how well your horse is going.
Yes.
You know, of course you sit well on a horse that's not really through or in a perfect balance, but you sit better. It takes you better when it's really through. And so, it's for everything.
I have trotted by listening to you say that before, because for the winter, I have been so lucky to be able to watch her ride every day, because we're both here at Poinciana. So it's been really fun. So I've heard you say that exact thing of like, and you can tell by the way the horse lets you in his back and how easy you can sit is like totally related to that throughness and self-carriage. And I love that. I wrote that down in my head. So tell us about like Sanceo, like his temperament, and like she hand walks this horse. Like her life revolves around this sexy beast. And I mean, he makes your heart flutter. Like, he is so special, but like, your relationship is also special. But tell us a little bit about him and who he is. And
he's a doll, you know. Many people always say, oh, he's so well behaved, you know. And just to tell a little bit in what way, like, when I come back here in the cross ties, I can have him there without a halter. Obviously, that's after work. But he stands there and I can wash his head. And Mariana, our groom from Danielle, she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you know, that's a stallion.
Yeah.
So he's really easygoing that way. And everybody says it, but there is a stallion in there. And it's funny, I just came back from the show. So yesterday, I really had to get the stud chain out, because he has that one habit. It's funny. When he comes back from the show, it's always loud and on 2 legs. I mean, he wants to, ask the girls.
And he's been winning everything, so it's now, you know, he's the big man.
And at the 5-star, they did drug tests, a couple riders and myself, so I couldn't come back. And I thought, I'm not going to tell Morgan. Maybe he's just being normal,
so she's not like ready for it.
And you know, it's not really his home here. So, and yesterday I asked, I'm like, so how was he last time? And she rolled her eyes and she's like, on 2 legs. But
That's so funny.
so that's a little bit of a habit, but he's a really sweet horse. He's very respectful, and he is sweet. Also, he knows exactly what the boundaries are. And I also have a certain setup. I'm a little bit picky about not having mares. You know, I'm not neglectant that way. So I have it set up nicely so he's not in a situation where that can go out of control. But like today, I taught 2 lessons and he's on the lunge line, hand grazing. I don't turn him out right now, loose. So he gets lots of hand graze, but he's a good guy. So I can teach a lesson. He just grazes. And he also, like you see, he loves to look around. You know, he just watch. But so he's
beautiful. But was there ever a time where you had to like lay down the law? Or is that like?
Actually, no. The only thing I would say that was difficult when he was younger, when he gets excited, he gets a little bit in that, I have to mimic him always, like he chomps a bit, like, and then he gets a little short and gets tense, and then
I saw that last year in the global arena, and I know,
and that was after Günther's mare.
Yes, there was a mare coming out, and he was just like, hello,
So then you lose the gaits, and that's hard to ride. So there's definitely some issues with that. He also, during Pan Am Games and in Toronto, was wild. He developed a herd instinct because they traveled together. And then he was the last one coming off the truck. You know, those things when the setup, but once you're like on a team, you can't, and you know, I'm very, I'm not like, why I have to have this and that, you know, I'm a little like trying to be, but that can set him off.
Interesting.
But he doesn't do anything. Then he's just, you know, nervous, but he doesn't let it out by, get out of my way and I'm going to do what I want.
Internal.
But it's you know, his performance suffers from it for sure. I have another stay and he blossoms almost.
So then how do you help him through those moments when he was getting really anxious and internal?
Good thing, because I got like, oh my God. And I remember even the first Grand Prix, which I did one national Grand Prix, and that was in Temecula in California. And I'm lucky to have my longtime coach and mentor, Christine Traurig. And her wisdom was, okay, we're going to go back to walk, canter, walk, trot, walk, walk, trot. Trying through quiet transitions, get his focus back on me, but especially on my legs. So I mean, there's so many things you have to do on the leg, and he gets hot on the leg. And I'm like, really? But I have to do in 10 minutes a Grand Prix test, and I haven't done my zigzag, I haven't done my one-time piece, I haven't done, you know, that sort of idea.
So I'm kind of getting a little chomping on my own bit.
But I left it. And it worked. And so,
just got him like on your leg and with your leg.
And and she taught me that, and she gave me that confidence that I can pass on now to my students, that, you know, there's always, it's not just like, oh, you go back to basics. It's you're going back to a concept that the horse then can rely on. And it's always going to go to that. And then I would call myself old school German. It's like the throughness, where we say when the hot horse accepts the leg, and the maybe a little bit more colder horse gets a little bit more reactive to the leg. With the throughness though, and I think that often gets forgotten. with throughness comes relaxation also.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when I did those transitions and quietly in my trot, walk, trot for a Grand Prix horse, it's like,
Yeah.
But then he comes more through, and with the throughness, he started to let go more.
And breathe and take a longer step behind.
Exactly. And is that a risk? Yeah, of course. I mean, maybe sometimes I couldn't have gotten it done in 10 minutes, and you certainly can't get that done in a warm-up if the horse doesn't know it. But because he's done that also when he was young,
right?
That's why I'm referring to it's a concept. So we can always go, and then he's like, okay. And
well, and it's funny too, because a lot of students are always like, oh, well, I'm just doing basic stuff. And I'm like, it's basic stuff forever, you know? And it's just, that's fun to hear that story, because so many times people can get also super jazzed up and then at the horse, and it just escalates the whole thing into tension, and then which leads to no relaxation, mistakes, you know. So that was really cool to, you know, we always talk about too, like, trust your training, like go back to what he knows, what you know, get him on your leg, you know, just more with you. And then it was like, oh, and then you just happened to get, you know, a giant score in the Grand Prix, you know, because you had that control and trust and relationship again. I love that. So tell us, like, who is Sabine Schut-Kery? Everyone reacts the same way when I ask that. It's like, oh boy, it's a big question.
I don't know, just a girl that rides and loves horses.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So have you always ridden? Like, tell us about like how you got started riding and kind of your history a little bit.
Yeah, I started, so my family is not into horses at all. And my sister is older than I, and she started riding as a beginning teenager, and she dragged me to the barn, and then I got infected.
Yes.
And it was always in Germany, like, okay, if you make it through teenage boy time without, you know, leaving the horses, then it's a done deal. So she did not make it. And I stayed with the horses. So that being said, so I'm the only one in the family. Yeah,
that's funny. Same with me and my family too. And my older sisters also started, and I was I was like, please, can I go? Can I go? So that was funny. I didn't get dragged along, but we're glad you did. So the whole world is happy about that. And so how was it growing up in Germany? We hear always about riding schools and the different culture. It's incredible. Like, it is the second most popular sport besides soccer, which of course is called football, you know, in Europe. But it's like everyone knows the riders, and it's a huge piece of the culture and just the history and everything. So tell us about that.
It is amazing. And so a couple of things, but it's also amazing to be here in the US and also seeing things and recognizing. It's amazing in Europe because the distance is so small. So what I sometimes feel sad for some of the kids here is how much they have to rely on transportations from their parents. So for us, it was like, well, we'll ride the bike to the barn and hang out all day. So you really observe, and it's really like, I remember it's always, you know, the Germans, a little hierarchy. So I remember when it was my day, I was allowed to pick the feet and clean the feet out, you know, and it was my day. I remember still the day when I was asked to cool down a horse. And that was like, I thought I won the Olympics.
Exactly. It was like full of honor, you know.
Yes. Like, I mean, there was like these levels of, you know, and then the next ones that picked the horse, they were under. It's so funny. So I lived, breathe and live horses. And it was, what I also loved was ponies. You know, I started with the ponies.
And how old were you at that time?
I was already I didn't start too early. I was around 10, I would say. But I remember, so ponies, doing everything with the ponies, jumping. Back then, we did a lot of trail riding group on the weekends and also at night rides.
Yeah.
I remember going to shows with, like, we were 10 ponies and we ride to the show about an hour. And I remember we how do you say that, on the way there, invented songs. Like we were singing.
Yes.
I mean, looking back, that's just the best.
What a magical childhood.
I mean, I remember we were all singing and then going to the show, and we do little cross country. And what I really love about Germany is that you start with an equitation class.
Yeah.
And I tell you why. Because when you start just looking at the rider's seat, that's how we communicate to horses, and that had to be perfect. So when you do the equitation class, the horses have side reins on.
Yeah.
So the backs are up and you can actually sit. It's your choice. You can also do it without. And then you start with your training level, but then it's already how does the horse go. So I like that before we try to influence the horse, you have to perfect, and before you can move on to that, I don't remember how it was. I think you had to have 15 first places.
Okay.
And then you're allowed to move on.
Yeah. That's what's really remarkable and different from Germany, of like, you start here and you must earn the chance to move up.
Yeah.
And then you have to be there, and you're going to earn the chance to like move to the next level. And that's really special.
And I think with the seat, I think that's just important.
The number one priority.
Yeah. And it's all about that. You don't have to worry if your horse is on the bit or not.
Yeah.
So, and, yeah, and to go back also, like what our barn did, I was super lucky to get into that barn. We did quadrilles and German championships.
Yeah.
And then we had a gentleman that was the first to bring Friesians from Holland to Germany. So we did quadrilles with 6 white Welsh ponies and 6 black Friesians.
Oh, cool.
And it was so fun. And obviously, you know, you have to work your way up there if you can ride. I certainly wasn't in it first.
Yeah. Just picking the feet.
Yes.
And so then did that lead you to the exhibitions? Because that's, I feel like when you first came to the United States, I mean, you just blew us away by your beautiful riding, but also the exquisite exhibitions that you did.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I got so lucky to be in that barn. So this gentleman, Günther Fröhlich is his name, and he wanted to promote the Friesians as a riding horse. Back then, funny little story, they were carriage horses. Yeah. And we were not allowed to canter them, so that they would not know canter, and they would trot, 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 trot. That's how, I mean, where it started. So anyways, then so he wanted to promote them. So what he did is he tried to go to, we rode in Aachen in the break, or Stuttgart at the big show in the break, and did demonstrations. And
so how old were you at this time?
So I started that at 16, and then at 18 I went for 3 years to learn with Jan Bemelmans, but that was in the same town. So at my lunch break I would go back and ride Friesians at his place. So so 16 I started that, and we did everything. So I learned how to ride a side saddle. Yeah. I learned how to ride one, drive it, or like the stallion, the stud books in Germany or farms, they sit on one horse and canter it and have the other one on the side, showing it off in an extended trot.
Yes.
I love driving. I have a little.
Really?
Yes. I learned all the way. I have my silver badge, and you have to drive a 4-in-hand for that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was lucky because my the gentleman again I worked for, they bought retired, early retired 4-in-hand competitive Welsh pony.
Oh,
4-in-hand. So I mean, that was trained, well-driven horses, and we could drive them. Yeah, that's also very fascinating.
I have to admit, at the WEG in Tryon, I was obsessed about the 4-in-hand. Like that was like my favorite, besides the dressage, of course. But like that, I have the chills thinking, like, it's incredible.
And you think first boring, but I tell you, it's the same like in riding, but instead of the leg, you have the whip, and they have to bend and they have to do the same thing, and they have to go forward and collect it and all these things.
Yeah, and then all through the obstacles, and then,
then obstacles, incredible. And then how amazing is the cones? Like where they measure the wheels, and you have like, maybe that much more, and the ball is on top. If you hit it, you knock it. I mean, it's incredible. Super fun, yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that about you. So then you got your Berider and like that with Jan Bemmelman.
Correct.
Because you have to study. Tell us about that program, because that's amazing that like you pick a professional and then you study under them for like 3 or 4 years.
So, and that is also a concept or a system I'm glad I was able to be part of. So I always say that in Germany, anything you want to become, even if you just want to paint walls in a house, you have to go through a 3-year apprenticeship, and you learn with somebody that's not just good, but that is also certified to train a person. So in the horse world, it's not just a horse trainer. Like I could not train in Germany somebody for that. I have to do a certain certification to do that. And you go 3 years, and then you have a midterm, what's it called? You being checked, or
like an evaluation.
Yes. Yeah. You go to Warendorf and you do your midterm evaluation.
Yeah.
If you pass, you can move on, and I guess if you don't, you stay a little longer.
Become a painter.
Yes.
Add 3 more years.
And then you have at the end your final exam.
Yeah.
And so the 3 years, what does that look like? I will say it's a lot of first horsemanship. And, you know, I was lucky to be with somebody like Mr. Bemelman's caliber, because I learned show grooming.
Yeah.
And obviously those barns do have also a certain caliber of horses that we did get to ride. I mean,
because what does that look like? Did you get to ride like one horse? Or
it's
a lesson
not
here and there.
No, it's not. Okay, I should explain that really more. So it's more the horsemanship than really the riding.
Okay.
You do get to ride, of course, because and your exam is about riding. You have to ride, I think, a 3rd level or something like that.
Is there also jumping?
And also jumping, yes, correct.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's some jumping.
And but your day-to-day, no, it's more the grooming,
and management.
The management, and but definitely yes, riding, but not if I look back, it's after that when it really starts more, I would say, the more serious stuff.
What did you do then after that?
After that, I went back to, sometimes I don't know if I should say it or not, but I'm just going to say it.
Do it.
I don't know. I think I have that from my mom, because my mom was a lot of things like that. No offense, but back then I thought, well, I don't want to have a horse like everybody has. So I didn't want to have a warm blood.
I wanted to be special.
I don't want to say that, but
or just different and unique.
Yes. Yeah. It's more the uniqueness, because still today I don't like a lot of like labels stuff. Yeah. You know, like I like a little bit unique.
Yeah.
So, but my horse choice was like that too. So I was a little bit, you know, and I think I was too young. I thought the competition stuff was also serious, and
I thought maybe not so fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought there was more liberty and freedom in doing exhibitions, and you can, it's not so that letter
Stuffy.
and that
Yeah.
letter, and you can feel a little bit more like in your exhibition, oh, is he, maybe somebody they clapped for, because we were always more people in the ring, maybe they clapped for so and so, and my horse puffed a little up. I'm like, oh, maybe now I should piaffe. So it's a little bit more playful, and not so to the letter.
Would you consider yourself an artist first and like a competitive rider second?
Yeah. I mean,
you can see that in your riding. It is, and I said this to you last year, like, you are one of my favorite riders, and the relationship you have with Sanceo is breathtaking. Like, it's beautiful. And like, that's what we all do dressage. That's what we're seeking, but it isn't this like, he's going to do the movements and I got to get every ounce out of him. It's like this beautiful, artistic, harmonious, come with me and let's do this.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that was also a little bit what drew you to the exhibitions, because there was more freedom of expression.
Right.
And to let the horse also find their beauty without the constraints of the pressure of the test.
Yeah, and everything has their balance, because you have to be careful also you don't become, a stage.
Right, yeah.
But and our group was always very interested in learning and doing it correct, and not being totally like catering to that. Right. Yeah. I mean, it was always about presenting our work and relationship with the horse and what we do with the horses, for sure. So I think it was a healthy, I've seen, being in that business, I've seen the other side too, where it's too much, and not correct enough, I would say, whatever you call correct,
Right.
But looking back, I'm really, how do I say that, it's really brings a lot of joy to combine the two, because on the other hand, I had to learn that too. There is a huge amount of thoroughness if you can make it happen Saturday afternoon at 2:35 and at the letter E, B,
right.
And that is also
a huge challenge.
So there is a great mixture of the two. I feel like that I'm glad, and it's also great to look back so far in my life to be able to be a little bit in that area of working with horses and meeting so many people and
traveling the world,
and different ways to be with a horse. I mean, I'm a huge fan also of liberty work. That's just fascinating to me until today.
So moving.
So it's nice to tap into all these, and I'm very grateful to have now this opportunity from Alice and Mike to have Sanceo and to tap into that. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, that is just
pretty awesome.
So
then how many years did you do the exhibitions, and like, where did you all go, and tell us about that adventure? I mean, that's pretty cool.
In Europe, we traveled a lot. I mean, really, literally all over.
A traveling team.
I was just telling your husband Richard that we went to Malmö too.
Oh yeah.
So there was a lot, but we did 2 big tours. Our first tour, which was so amazing, was with the Lipizans from Lipica.
Wow.
Yeah, we did a whole tour with them, and it was really cool. I mean, we did a quadrille with I can't remember, 6 or 8 of the white Lipizans. All together. So it was 4 Lipizans or 6 and 4 or 6 Friesians.
Yes, cool.
So we did then we had a pas de deux. We had 1 Friesian that did Grand Prix work, and then 1 Lipizana. So we traveled with them all over Europe. I mean, literally, I remember we went to Venice. There is a horse fair there in Verona.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to Stockholm.
Wow. And like, how long would these tours last?
So we did it with the Lipizzans. That was always just a weekend, Friday through Sunday. And that's what I think was the most fun, because then you go back home and you can give your horse a little bit off time.
Yeah.
You can check back on basics. Here we are with the basics
Walk,
again.
trot,
Yeah.
walk, trot.
But seriously, because you do all movements there.
Right.
So,
A little long and low.
yeah, for sure. And then we did another tour. Then after that, we started something like Cavalia. We were actually the first ones to have a show like Cavalia with the screen in the back.
Wow.
And we did that for, well, the show went on a long time. I have to backflip. I did it for, I think, 2 years, because I met my husband there.
You met him in that?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
But it was a little bit tougher for me. And that's why I said with the Lipizzans, it was nice because you went home, because that show was every day, 2 times a day. Yeah, they got a day off too. But that is a little harder if you're really, I don't know, for me, the horses knew when the curtain opened.
Yeah.
And it's the same music because it was a storyline.
Okay. Yep.
And so there was a certain music, and they know after a while. And you go in and they have that, all know that they have their own ideas, and they get their own ideas,
right.
and you can't do much. And so that was not so fulfilling for me. I just simply said it has not enough to do with riding anymore.
Yeah.
So then actually that's when I sold my Friesian. I had a Friesian that I trained to Grand Prix, and I sold him to a gentleman in Dallas. And he could also do tricks. He sat on command and reared. So I did come over to show him, because he bought him from a video. So I went over and showed him where the buttons were, because those are really just buttons.
Yeah.
And he offered me a job.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like on the spot. He was like,
yes. I remember saying, okay, I have 2 horses, and I met this young man, and I think he's a keeper. And he's like, well, let's bring them all over. And that's the type he was. He was amazing. Amazing.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, go back and pack and bring everybody
That's
over.
how he was with everything.
And so then, so that's when Proud Meadows started.
Yeah, that was in 1998. That's when I moved here.
Wow. And then how long were you there?
7 years. Yeah. In 2005, I went to California.
And what made you decide California?
Personal reasons. So my husband is in the movie business, but it doesn't mean you have to live in California. But he started going more for work.
Because he trains horses.
Yes.
So let's just put that. Like he's also a horse trainer.
Yeah,
but stunt rider also.
Yeah. And he trains horses for movies and stuff like that. So, and I visited him, and I fell in love with the weather. I love the weather, and it's so motivating. And so the plants and flowers that grow there just blew me away. I mean, it's just the colors is like amazing. And so Jim unfortunately passed away. And I feel like, the whole package, it was like a family. It kind of fell apart. And he did always say, you can stay here.
Yeah.
But honestly, I like challenge. And I love to learn. So even though Jim brought my trainer every year over, that was one of the things I really wanted. And he always committed to that. But after that, I really wanted another big push of learning. And I thought, you know, either Florida or California or East Coast, West Coast. So I decided, or we decided West Coast, because obviously it was also good for my husband. And I started going on with education. I just love it. I still get a kick out of it.
Me too.
Yeah.
And so then you moved to California, and then, tell us a little bit about how you start again. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a huge, courageous move to like, I flew over with this stallion, and all of a sudden I'm offered this job and he wants to bring everyone with us. That's cool. And let's do that. And then things change, and like then the next challenge comes, and the next move and growth happens. And so how do you move to California and like start again?
I was really lucky because 6 of my clients sent their horses with me. So
so
that was great.
Wasn't starting over totally.
No, exactly. I'm so lucky. And, you know, really looking back, and this is probably also sometimes helpful for people that want to do a move, it was really, Alice is the one, Sanceo's owner, is the one that really, I'm so grateful for, that she really gave me that chance. And, you know, I wanted to make a transition to actually, now I want to ride warm bloods.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I want to do.
Ready now.
Yes. And she gave me the opportunity with Cacique. And I was able to do well with him. So, and then you get to be seen on a warm blood, and you're not the Frisian rider anymore.
Right, the exhibition lady.
Yes, exactly. So then one thing led to another. Obviously, you have to do also a good job, otherwise you're not seen out there.
And I think, like, people have asked me that too, like, how did you move from Wisconsin to the East Coast? And then, you know, you moved to South Carolina. Like, how do you do that? And I think there's hearing that 6 of your clients went with you, I think there's a real piece to say about keeping your clients, like, it's not just like, well, because you're just like such a great rider, and of course no one in the world could ride them as great as you, so they have to go with you. There's also a big piece of your communication. You didn't burn bridges. You were always up front. You know, like the real person to person. You know, we always joke that like we get into this because we love horses, and we have to turn into a little bit being people person, even though we're like horse people. And then it's like you're kind of forced to be able to get to learn people and communicate with people. And so like I think that's also something to just give a quick sentence or two about what do you prioritize with your clients, that they were all like, we're going to California, you know? I mean, that's not everyone has that. And I think I still have clients from 20 years ago, you know, and clearly you do too. And so tell us a little bit about your relationship with your clients and how you create such a great space.
I think what I always had, and that got me actually in one of the bigger barns, or, you know, El Campion, which is a gorgeous barn, how I got in there is because, and that's how it started also with California, with the move, because the clients sent the horses with me. So I think there is just that German, I looking back, I do take a little bit pride in that. People really trust me. They can send a horse and I will ride it.
Yeah.
And
care for it like it's your own.
Of course, yes. Yeah. And I always said, and you can't go around that, because at the end I have to show it at a show. What I do with Sanceo, that's what Alice still says to this day. She's like, you are, you know, you made him and he loves you, and all this relationship. Well, that's because I take care of him, and I really do my job, and I take pride in that and responsibility. If somebody sends me a horse, I am really taking care of it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And when I was referring to the barn, it was funny, you know, it was a private barn, and they started slowly opening up, but they liked because I didn't have 20 or 30 horses with clients. I always had a small business. I don't take more than 8 to 10, and sometimes it overlaps until one leaves, or sometimes I'm low. So I always do it even until today. I mean, I can tell you Sanceo has never been on a walker because I walk him.
Exactly. Good old-fashioned.
And that doesn't mean, you know, none of them, but I think you get the idea. I want to spend that time, and I'm trying really hard to make a living, because I know that's hard, but have the time to also warm up my own horse, to walk it enough at the beginning, and to also cool it down and not just jump off.
Right.
And so relationship, that's what made it that people send horses to me. Relationship to my owners, definitely, you know, being communicative, open, video updates. But I think also open, which sometimes it's hard. Not everybody wants to hear that.
True. And the truth.
And I've had some heartaches too from that made me really sad, because it comes from an honest spot. And but that's another, I don't want to.
That's a whole nother conversation. So
we're going to. But honesty, you know, and I believe in people match. There's nobody right or wrong. It's the same, like you're getting connected to your future husband, and you don't get connected to the other guy.
Right. So it's just kind of chemistry and connection. Yeah.
And coming from the same thoughts and stuff. So,
and like attracts like, you know. So when you're very clear with who you are, then it's easy for people to like either connect with that or not, you know. Yeah. So who were your biggest influences growing up, and even to this day, even like who, you know, inspired you just along the way?
Well, I mean, a few, like if I look at the dressage, I love Ingrid Klimke.
Me too. Me too. She's my girl crush.
Yeah. And then I have a lot of, again, the interest goes into different areas. I don't know if I pronounce her name right, but the French rider Elite Dressage Rider. She does a lot of bridleless.
Yeah.
With warm bloods and some Iberian horses too, but with a lot of warm bloods. And she does a lot of dressage movements, bridleless.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think the connection is what inspires me and I look up to, because I mean, I know what that takes.
Well, and like even with bridle and everything. So easy.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So like for her to be completely with just like a neck rope or something, it's just like, wow, I mean, that's what we're all going for. Like she's truly thinking and the horse is actually doing.
Yeah.
And that's, I think also what's very evident in your riding too, where it's very different to watch you and Sensayo. You're like in this bubble of it's just different, you know, and then there's like all this other stuff going on around, you know, and like when you see it then like getting good scores in the arena, it's like so inspiring because we all kind of started riding for that.
Yes.
That's why we started, you know, which I loved in the beginning when you're like, I'm just a girl who loves horses. And I'm like, yes, I so get that, you know, and to see something that's with this girl, it's just beautiful. And it's like, if you can bring that into sport, you know, that's the real beautiful mix for sure.
And then I have I really love, and I did have when I was younger a little crush on him, and that's Lorenzo, the flying Frenchman.
Okay, okay.
And he does, he's French and he's from the Camargue, and you have to look him up. He does the, what do you call it? Well, you have to look it up.
Okay.
He has a lot of videos and he does exhibitions, and I know him from back when I was doing exhibitions, and
Yeah.
he does it until today. And he does Roman riding, so he stands on the horses, but he has 4 or 3 on the right, on the left,
Whoa.
nothing on, and they follow. I mean, just look at it. I don't even want to describe it. That is,
Yeah, they're all totally loose.
yes.
Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah,
yes, I have seen that.
And I remember him
Getting the
starting with
chills,
only
starting
2, and
Yeah.
I already thought he's
amazing.
Yes.
Right, now there's like 6 out there.
Yes. And I love how he made it better and better, and also challenged. And I just love, I don't know, sometimes I feel like, why are we riding these horses?
Yeah.
So I'm attracted to this liberty stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I
get
do know
that.
why. I
I
do
get
know
that.
why.
Yes,
but
I totally. I am too.
it's just fascinating.
It is that you can control this animal with
Yeah.
just that energy.
Exactly.
It's just-
And that's kind of their choice. And I think that's also for me in the riding. And sometimes that bites me in the butt too. I always wanted a little to, be their choice. But sometimes you also
Yeah.
have to go a little bit.
Yes, that struggle is real. I agree, because you want the horse to be able to show up because he wants to be there.
Do you want to learn how to communicate in a way that your horse can better understand? Be sure to check out Team Tate Academy, JJ's online classical dressage academy. Open for enrollment multiple times per year. As a member, you'll gain clarity through the USDF-accredited lesson library, monthly Zoom meetings, and twice-monthly live study groups called the Tack Room Chats. Join the community and benefit from connecting with a fun, passionate, and like-minded group of dressage lovers just like you. Be supported and empowered to make the progress you and your horse deserve, regardless of age, level, or background. Be inspired. JJ's commitment to your success shines through in every lesson and lecture. Let JJ's belief in you and your horse transfer over to every one of your rides. Visit teamtateacademy.com/podcast today to join the waitlist for the next open enrollment.
But that's very palpable when you watch you and Sensayo work together in the show ring. Like, you see that you can call up the hind leg, one hind leg over the other. There's this beautiful, like, elastic sag in the reins that he is truly carrying his own bits.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like completely rare, because I mean, in the time now, we got to check nose bands, and there's
Right, yeah.
pressure, and like put him in the position and
Yeah.
get him together. It's like, you truly, it's evident that you call up Sanceo and he comes to you on his own accord, so you are making that real. And that's just totally beautiful, and I love it.
And I also love in the sport, obviously. I mean, I watch so much. Even before I compete, I watch tests from, Helen Langenhagenberg.
Yeah.
I love watching Isabel, and
Yes.
and I also love the uniqueness of each rider. Like,
Yeah.
if I look at Helen, everybody's always with the short reins, but if I watch her, they're always a little longer, and her hands are always a little bit more here.
Yeah.
So what? I mean,
Yeah,
it
she's
works.
still great.
Right.
Exactly. And I mean, that's something, I really talk to my listeners and viewers about, is like, find your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's a way that we want to like train under the principles.
Within, yes.
Right. But there's like this, Isabel looks like no one else. Ingrid and Helen trained under Ingrid, and they still don't look identical to each other, and so that, like, talking about that, like, what is the most important thing for you in your life? Like, family or horses? Like, how do you find your own self inside this sport? And how do you honor that
time off and time for myself.
Mhm.
It's really important. I love horses, but I have other interests, and maybe not at depth, because that would take also again more
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But it's enough for me. I love interior design, so it's enough if I have a weekend to just, you know, browse through magazines, or nowadays the browsing is more, you know, on Instagram, and look at stuff
Yeah.
like that, or actually go in the city. I love big cities. and I'm not very social, but I love being around, and I'm not bothered by crowds.
Interesting.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I'm not a chatter, or I don't go out unless there is some depth to a communicate. I don't just go out for small talk.
Right.
Or
right.
a drink. I don't.
Yeah.
I love to hike.
Mhm.
And it's really important to me to spend time with my husband, and I love dogs and cats. So I do hike a lot.
Yeah.
I love food.
So there is also eating.
Yes. So I love going out to restaurants, or make it a Sunday afternoon, because we all know how long does it take to cook. You go to the grocery store, you have to cut everything, you have to cook it. And then you can enjoy it, actually eat it.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of time. So sometimes, you know, Sunday afternoon, we just make that a big deal.
Yeah.
And then finish the dinner with a really nice movie. We love watching movies, both of us. And we love going to independent movies. So the town where I lived, down in LA, we haven't explored much up in Napa yet, but there was an independent movie theater.
Cool.
So we would always go and watch a movie like that, and that just charges my batteries. And Mondays I'm like, want to go. And I love, from Europe still, I have adopted that celebration of Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, I don't take off Monday. I mean, I'm lucky. I understand if I have a lot of clients at work, I have to be available on the weekends. So far, I never had to do that. So I'm off Saturday, Sunday, unless, of course, showing, and down here, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But I love Sundays to go out for breakfast, and everybody goes out with their families, and the dogs and it's outside. The weather in California, it doesn't matter. Even in December, it's beautiful. You can sit outside and be active. And we live 30 minutes from the beach. I don't lay on the beach, and I've been since 2005 in LA, and I've been, I think, 2 times in the water. Yeah. But I love being around it and driving along the coast. And so that sort of stuff. So that's me, and that's important to me, that I have that, and to recharge my batteries.
Totally away from horses.
Yeah.
And I do love that idea of Sundays. Like, when you get to Europe, it's like,
I love it. Yeah.
It's just, maybe now not anymore, but like when I lived there, it was like Sundays, things were closed. Like, you needed to make sure you had all the things you needed, because you can't find a place that's open. And I was like, wow, it just slowed down. Like, time slowed down.
Yeah.
And that's healthy, you know, to just like, just keep yourself grounded. So something I always ask everybody in my podcast is, we talk a lot about the hero's journey, and like, there's this idea that the hero has to like break away from what they know and go on a journey and go through some hard times and come out the other end gaining something personally from them. What would you say your hero's journey has been like, and what have you learned about yourself through that challenge and taken from those challenges?
Okay. So can you rephrase it? I'm not 100% sure I understand.
Even
so
inside your training, you know, it's like Stefan talked about his, you know, we didn't quite phrase it as the hero's journey, but his later in life anxiety that was like crippling for him. Like, that was the biggest challenge that he has faced, and like what he learned through going through that. What do you think yours would be?
So one of what I feel like was a challenge I had to go through, I think being not so German. It was interesting, but it started with, little hurdles of, I remember that when my boss in Dallas said, okay, the president of the Dallas Dressage Club wants to come and take a lesson, and I was sure. And I just thought that it's very innocent, but I did make her cry. It wasn't like, oh, there was no bad thought. It was me, and it was the way I grew up. And that's what I love about America. It has taught me little by little every year, and still until this day. I feel like it makes me also a better person.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And I struggled with that, but I don't know if it was my upbringing also. I'm sure that's part of it too. But also the German system can be a little harsh.
Yeah, a little like tough.
Yeah. And on the other hand, you have to say it also made me who I am. So it has its good and bads. I think I really look at everything in balance. We talked about balance in the horses, but balance in life and balance with being tough, but not in a negative way, but in a
right, and like being honest,
yes,
but being kind,
yes,
but,
yes.
It's like that's where that toughness of like, well, this is the truth, and that's maybe not what you want to hear, but I'm going to be as kind and compassionate.
Yeah.
While we work on to improve that weakness or whatever it is. But to not say it's not there is just.
And I want to be that person, and I'm sad sometimes afterwards, of course, always. I'm like, wow, I don't want to hurt. Yeah.
I didn't mean to make you cry.
No, I mean, and that's just one little example, and it goes on, and I don't know. I mean,
that's
I'm trying to think of other things, but
what do you think you've had to overcome the most, like in your own riding?
In my riding, I was recently, let me think, recently I talked about that habits, obviously, because I started first with exhibitions. And I think also riding Frisians a lot, which I had to, I don't know.
Have you struggled with any competition nerves ever? I mean, I feel like you did so many exhibitions, like.
Yeah, I mean, actually, recently I've been thinking and saying, wow, that's really a different level and a different kind of competing when you're really trying to be on a team. And I tried that for the Pan Ams too.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, for me, it's sometimes a little also harsh or brutal in the sense of, I go to a show and I don't think about that I'm going to compete against you.
Right.
I just go to the show and I'm going to the judge and say, can you look at my,
work.
Yes. Yeah. Well, now I'm going to have to look at, so how did so-and-so do?
Right.
So does it, you stay in that.
Yeah, like know where you are in comparison, really.
And and did it bump me out of my spot or not?
Right.
And that I really don't like. It's not.
Yeah, that seems stressful.
Yeah, and not, I don't know, that doesn't, it seems like that's not really why I compete. Even though I don't want to come across that I don't have like the will and like at Pan Am Games, I will do my best. I'm not saying, oh, I don't want to, you know, give my best there because, oh, I have to be, you know, be better than somebody else. I mean, but am I making sense? It's a little bit like, I don't know, it becomes a little bit, very competitive. Is that the right word?
Yeah. But I think it's also like there's that negative piece of when your horse becomes a vehicle for your ego to win. And I just feel you, like, just everything about you is just like, that is not at all what we're doing. And that's why we love you so much. And that's what's so honorable about, you can tell that watching you compete, you know, that it's just, you're like in a snow globe and you're just doing beautiful work.
Because I always, and a lot of people, and that's a different mentality too, and everybody's different, but like for me, I always say that example, when I bought my first horse, I was riding second level. What was my dream back then? It was not going to the Olympics. I wanted to ride third level. So does that make me now not being, what's the name, powerful
ambitious?
Or ambitious?
Yeah.
No, I was, and I am. But
you understand the
I think
level.
This is what works for me, and everybody's different. For me, it works as long as I do the job that I want to get done with a horse. It's going to put me where it needs to be.
Yes.
In a placing or
how you feel about it.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's amazing perspective, because that's like the rest of us are, we work on that, you know.
And I would be afraid. But again, it has to be a good balance, because you do have to be competitive too. But it has to be, to me, in a healthy way, because I don't want my riding or my product to be affected by me, then all of a sudden saying, oh my God, I have to do it. I have to keep my third spot, you know, and then, oh, I need to push him a little more because we need it. No, stay focused on, you didn't train it that way. Right. The training was, I would say, normal. It got you to be a perspective for a team. Yeah. And then keep that work and make your work as good as you can with who your horse is, with who you are. Yeah. Of course, push yourself, but in a healthy way, and not, you know, oh my God, and now we're going to do. Yeah. And, you know, we're all human. Did that cross my mind? Oh, yeah. But I right away said, that's not going to make it better. It's like, you know, like sometimes you think, oh, it's hot. And then I'm like, oh, I have to compete at 2. Oh, I have a bigger spur I could put on. I'm like, what? You know, like, I'm like,
this moment, you're like,
that's that. Yeah.
If you could give yourself a slap, you'd be like, why would you do that? Just, but again, like, trust your training. And I think that's what's also so cool, that you've had him like his whole, almost his whole entire riding career, you know, like, do you know, what he got in the beginning is like, don't buck me off, you know, find some balance and behave, you know, and then it's like you started it, you know, it's amazing. And that's like, I'm glad to hear, like, at least that thought also crosses your mind, because when you're in the mix, it's like random thoughts like that do come in, and then it's like, what? But I would never, he wouldn't know what to do if I all of a sudden put this sharper spur on. Yeah. And that's not going to make it any different. No. It's going to upset him, and then it will just go again, like what's not authentically you. Right. And like living inside your integrity. I just think that you're so in touch with that, which is beautiful. So what kind of advice would you give for all the other, you know, not only young riders who dream of going to the Olympics, but like also every rider, like amateurs and other trainers, and like, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
Oh. My biggest piece of advice, you know, respect these animals, you know, and what they do for, or what they let us do, you know.
Incredible. Now we're both
Sorry.
now we're both going to cry.
Yeah,
It is true.
And it's our job to do right to them, you know, and the best we can. I mean, nobody's perfect. I'm not preaching here, you know, just, I think that is a big piece. Yeah, don't, Anne Gribbons said it in her book, but I can't repeat the words exactly, but don't use the horse as a vehicle for your own ego or glorification, I think she said.
Yeah.
And be as fair as you know, just keep that in mind.
Well, and I feel like we're here to serve them.
Yeah.
Instead of like, what can they do for us? It's like so much about,
and we tend to, I don't know if that's a word, but you help me. We tend to humanize the horses so much. You know, think about what do they have. So I take Sanseo's time away on the pasture, right? But I need to replace that.
Yeah.
And that's why also in my work, I want a thinking horse, and I want to create a thinking horse. And that's how I try to train. I try not to train to tell him, okay, now we're going to do this, this, and that. But I try to encourage thinking by letting him make a mistake and guiding him to where I need to. But him also, he has to have a say in this.
Yeah.
And so now I have a horse that's thinking, and that takes up part of his day, or what I took away from, I mean, it's a different way of, but it's interacting. That's what it comes back to. So I'm interacting now instead of he's interacting with his herd, maybe in freedom or whatever. And then obviously taking them out of their stall. And responsibility also as a rider. And I know it's easier said than done, and I don't want to come across on what I'm trying to work on and be a harsh German, but really we have to also always just work on our riding, that we're not in their way, and be guiding, mentoring, teaching,
aiding them. Yeah, I mean, just this last week, we both took our stirrups away.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, because it's just always about riding better. You know, Charles, my mentor, always says, you know, it's a riding sport, not a horsing sport. So you got to always, you know, get better at the riding. And it's a breath of fresh air, even on this level, that it's like, that's still the focus, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a wonderful, inspirational conversation. And I thank you very, very much for your time and all of your insight. And we wish you the best of luck at the Olympics and beyond.
Thank you so much for having me. That was fun. That was easy.
That was fun. I'm glad. So thank you guys for joining.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Dressage Life with JJ Tate. Make sure to tell your friends that they can find us wherever they get their podcasts, and be sure to subscribe, like, and leave feedback to help other dressage lovers inspire their ride too. For more information and education from JJ Tate, make sure to visit teamtateacademy.com. The podcast you just listened to is produced and powered by Red Mare Enterprises, creating possibilities through branding, modern digital solutions, and project management. We know the horse industry inside and out.